Hey everyone, and welcome to another Tea Time tutorial. My name is Brian Robinson. I'm with CodeContemporary.com, and I'm working to help you figure out exactly what you need to do to write modern, efficient code. This is a tea time tutorial, so as always, I've got some tea. It's a lovely Ceylon Sonata from Adagio Teas. So make sure you brew something up and let me know what you're drinking over in the chat over there. As well as let me know if you have any questions that can be related to today's topic, which is NetlifyCMS and my new site, myclientwants.com. But also broader than that, really any CSS, front-end development, web development, career advice, anything like that, you can go ahead and post over in the chat, and I'll answer either throughout the stream or we'll take some questions at the end that will be maybe off topic, but definitely I think something worthwhile to everyone who is watching today. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions and we'll kind of go from there. So I'm going to switch over to my screen share and we're going to talk a little bit about this new site that I've put together. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I put it together and my methodology that I used. But it is called myclientwants.com. And it is about resources for using the Jamstack, the static site framework stack in client work. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But also, I found working in the agency world last year and for the past almost 6 years, static sites seemed like they weren't the right fit for a lot of clients, and I'm trying to kind of break that stigma with this site. So if you have found any resources, be sure to let me know. If it's something that a client has wanted and you don't see a resource, let me know, and you can suggest a resource up here in the top right at myclientwants.com. That's literally just going to take you over to my GitHub for it, and you can open up a new issue. I've got a lovely template for new issues here to let you know the information that I need if you are requesting to put a resource on the site, or you can just let me know what sort of resources you're looking for your clients, for your stakeholders, to convince them that the Jamstack is the way to go. Wow, chat is moving. That's cool. I love it when that happens. Ooh, Starbucks K-Cup Pike Roast. That's going coffee this morning instead of tea. I like it. Stronger stuff. Let's see. So there are some questions coming in. One's about NetlifyCMS auth. One's about some templating in CSS. So we will talk about the templating one in a little bit. Joe, go ahead and post your actual question about NetlifyCMS auth. I'm not going to be going into the details of auth, so make sure to go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll talk about it in a bit. So let's talk about what this site actually is. All it is basically is a collection of links to various resources for things that I found that clients need pretty regularly in terms of the sites that they want. So in this case, there's a section that has 4 things about building Jamstack forms, obviously Netlify forms being a big one in that, but also some other tools that you can use. I've got the fact that most clients want CMS functionality, and there's actually a lot of different Jamstack CMSs out there. Obviously, we're going to be talking about NetlifyCMS today because that is completely free. It's free as in beer as well as free in software. So it's something that I like to use for smaller projects. Ooh, I've got a little byline there that doesn't have a title. That's good. And then it's also got stuff like Contentful. There's a static site CMS called Publi. Really a whole bunch of stuff in here to help you figure out what CMS in the static site world is best for your clients. How to integrate with various APIs. We've obviously talked on this stream about using 11D's data files and hooking into meetup.com's API. But there's also a lot of other ways and a lot of other people doing it. So you can bring your YouTube videos over to your static site. You can add search to it. Recent tweets, that sort of thing. Recent tweets being a big one that a lot of clients want. They want to make their site appear more active by having their most recent tweet out there. And you can still do that even in a static site, which is nice. E-commerce is a big one. Lots of clients need to at least sell some small stuff, if not larger stuff. There's a lot of different ways of handling that. There's actually a great CSS tricks series from Sarah Drasner, who is now actually the head of developer experience over at Netlify. So that's pretty cool. She just announced that yesterday. But she wrote this entire series about using Vue.js to do a serverless checkout experience. but there's also lots of stuff. There's a Gatsby tutorial for React developers, all sorts of good stuff happening there. And then user-generated content being kind of a big thing. There's a lot of different ways of doing that. There's comments being a big deal. I've got my post here about how I used it to integrate with iOS shortcuts, which was a lot of fun to do. A lot of good content there. And then themes are pretty important. If you're coming from a WordPress world, you really want that out-of-the-box theme functionality. So I made this site strictly so that I can share more and more resources that I find as I work on stuff with the community at large, and obviously helping those authors who are looking to promote their stuff on a site like this as well. So let's talk a little bit about the methodology I used to build this. I built it really in about 1 day last week. And I started purely static, right? So I didn't have a CMS. I didn't have any data integrations. I literally wrote an HTML page. Let's get these screens in order for me here. And then I ended up converting it over to a static site generator. So originally I had an index.html file, and this is where I had all of the HTML, the actual doc type, all the way down to the /HTML at the end. It was fully just a straight up index file, and I wrote the content inside of the divs, inside the sections, which is great for prototyping, but really was going to get tedious later on. So then I decided I needed to move it into a data world, right? And so I'm using Eleventy here. I converted it over to an Eleventy site, and what I really like about Eleventy is it's completely agnostic of how you want to use it. So in this case, we have strictly one template. I took the entire HTML that I had written for that static HTML page, and I dumped it into my homepage.html template. And then all I did was come in and just in this sections area, bring in a loop, one simple loop on the page, and that's the only dynamically generated piece of this, is just this one section. So I kept it as basic as possible because I was looking to get done very, very quickly. And to do that, to get it in there, I could have gone one of two directions. I could have created a collection inside of Eleventy. I could have had a folder with the collections, much like the blog posts that we talked about a few weeks ago in another live stream. But I felt like that was going to be a lot of copying and pasting. It was going to end up being a lot of data management in a lot of different ways. So I ended up just making a data file called resources.json, and I converted all of what I had written in the in that HTML into structured data in JSON. And so here I've got a sections array, and then inside that I have the form, like that title, description, and the nav link from here. So each of these sections has a title, has a description, which is just it's actually a markdown file in NetlifyCMS, we'll see in a second. And then it also has the ability to change the title for this nav link. So integrating with APIs has let's see, maybe it's user-generated content. Yeah, user-generated content has a longer title, but I've actually overridden it with another nav link title up here. So I'm able to kind of modify this data as I go. And this was much easier. So when I added about a dozen new resources this past weekend, and I was able to copy and paste these chunks in the data, and that was much, much easier. But again, not sustainable for me long term. So this morning actually is when I finished my implementation of NetlifyCMS on the site. But as you can see, I do have a config.yaml, which is actually setting up all the stuff that I need to edit that data, that JSON data file. So I'm using the Git gateway like we used in the meetup stream a few weeks back, just so that if I need to in the future, I can give somebody who doesn't have Git access to add resources for me if I want. But I created a collections object that has a pages object inside of that, because that's how we handle static pages as opposed to full-on collections. And then I basically told it what file I wanted it to edit, which is the data resources.json file. And then I gave it a set of fields, and these fields are actually repeatable fields. I'm going to show you what that looks like right now, because it's a little bit of a mind bend when you just look at it in code. You've got a list that has multiple objects inside of it, and it's a little hard to reason about. But let's take a look at the actual content management, and all I had to do was go to /admin on my site, I'm already logged in, so it automatically recognizes that I've logged in via Netlify's identity module. And then you can see, since all we've defined is that resources page, there's a pages over here in the sidebar, and then a resources page inside that's just going to be handling the editing of that data file. So now inside this, it's not the best design, and actually I'm thinking about doing some design work around it and maybe making some pull requests to it. We have 6 resource sections, and these line up with the 6 sections that I have here. All these jump links line up with a section. Let's take a look at the forms so that we can line that up. All right, so forms has a title, a description, and then it has resources inside of that. So inside of here, we have a forms resource section. I can open that up, and all those data points that I've got in my data file line up with things inside of here, and they're repeatable. I can actually add resource sections on the fly. So I have an ID, the forms title, the nav link. If I wanted this to read a little bit differently, I could do that very easily. A description that has a WYSIWYG box, which is super helpful, or I can click over and actually write the straight markdown, which I enjoy. It's a nice little feature. I could also embed some images in here if I needed to. I don't actually know how that's going to display on page because I haven't written any styles for it, but it's there if I need it. And then inside that, I have another list widget. So if we come over here and look at this, we have, this is a list widget. There's these sections, and then each section has these fields, one of which is a resources field, which has another repeating list inside of it. This is where it gets kind of brain bendy, right? And then inside that, each of those resources has a title, an author, which is optional, a URL, a description, which is just a text box, no markdown in this one, and then a tag select option, which lets me control an array of content that can go in there. So if we take a look at form handling with the Jamstack and Netlify, you can see that's where that title is. It's got an author. I could very easily remove that author if I needed to, and it should theoretically remove it from the site. It's not right now, apparently, but I will work on that bug. It takes a URL, and that's what's going to actually be in our template that's creating the anchor, a small description, and then that tag, which is also a multi-select. So if I have a tutorial that is also a video, I can add both of those in there. So it's actually a multi-select, which is super nice. I wrote one line of code to do that, didn't have to worry about anything. So yeah, this is kind of the structure of it. And one of the nice things, and we'll do this real fast. Let me refresh so I don't actually end up saving in the wrong thing. It's fine. I can reorder these drag and drop, and it's actually going to reorder the array in my data, which is going to reorder the way that my template displays it. So if I drag this underneath CMS and publish, we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. Oops. Required field missing. I actually haven't saved since I've converted this over. Let's see. I bet author is a required field still. So let's see if we can push a change up that will fix that. Let's see. Required false. So what am I missing? It'd be helpful if there were a little bit of a better error state on that. Let's try to publish again and see if there is a better error state. Console. Nothing in there. All right, so let's take a look. Resources. Pretty sure I've got something. Aha, here it is. Author is required, even though it's not supposed to be. So we'll say author. Here they are. We will have to go back and fix this later for myself. All right, publish. Still missing some. Sorry, you'll have to watch some tediousness. While I do this, let's take a look. So DK asks a question about blog using Jinja 2, which is something I used 5 or 6 years ago at an old job. What he wants to do is create a way that every time a new entry is added to the blog, the styling of the background will alternate white, gray, white, gray, white, gray. Okay, so that's the whole like even odd styling. You can do this in one of two ways. In Jinja 2, you should have a filter of some sort that is an even odd filter. It's been a little while. I can Google that, but there is a filter you can attach to it to do that. But the easiest way is nowadays you could, in your CSS, use nth child even or nth child odd and vary the background style just on that. So you actually don't have to add any markup to your template to do that. All you have to do is, for any child that is even, it will apply a different background color to that child. So that would be the way I would go about it. But I do know that Jinja 2 does have an even odd filter of some sort. This is super exciting television right here, y'all, isn't it? Going back and forth. So let's take a look at what Joe asked. The docs in NetlifyCMS say to put the auth script on your home page and add another page as the entryway. The question is, do I have to have that on the home page? So that home page script is handling the Netlify identity redirect. So it ends up hitting back to the home page to make sure that you have access, and then redirects you into the admin. There are ways to bypass that. So you could have an admin page that you redirect to. I haven't done that. But yeah, there's a way around that. But for the most part, you just add it to the home page and it automatically is going to redirect back into your admin area. And you can actually see, which let me take a look real fast. I'll show you in the code here if it's on here. So what happens is this, and you can modify this code down here. So why do I have this twice? That's awesome. So you bring in the Netlify widget JavaScript, and then inside of it, it checks so the widget actually appends onto your window object, an object called the Netlify identity, which has a whole bunch of methods. And then you can call Netlify window.netlify identity. It has an on method that you can pass it init, log in, log out, and like 2 or 3 others. So you can see it says if I don't have a user, check window.identity when a user logs in, redirect the user to admin. So you can very, very easily change where that redirect goes and be good to go. Now on the identity side, there might be some other stuff you have to do to tweak where it is, but definitely something that you can do. Does that make sense? Yeah, no, and Joe says it's huge compared to everything else. It is. It's a lot of things to add to your homepage in terms of file size and kind of the scope of it. So yeah, if you can move it, it'd be way better too. And back to finding where I have this awful required field, which should not be required because I said it was not required. URL author. There it is. Author. We have to go modify all this data later. I bet that is something we need to worry about. Author is author again. This is themes. All right, let's try this again, shall we? Oh, dang. Well, again, super exciting TV. Let's scroll back through. Give me that sweet, sweet red outline. Any other questions while I do this awfulness? Ah, there's a tag missing here. This is a tool. I think I didn't format some of my data correctly, and since I haven't actually published this from the CMS yet, it ran into issues there. Okay. Come on, my friend. All right. Let's just assume that would have modified my data and actually moved that around because it is not something that I should have done without testing beforehand. But yeah, so this is the basics kind of NetlifyCMS. This is actually a really complicated page. If you want to take a look at a simpler one, go check out my 11D tutorials from a couple weeks ago. There's a data, I'll post a link in the description. I didn't think that this would be a thing that I'd be covering too much today. But you can definitely take a look at that to find out how you can do simpler things with it, as well as hooking into collections like blog posts to write blog posts in it. So yeah, I've created this site specifically for adding new resources. It's as simple as I can make it, as quick as I can make it. It is, fully responsive. It has, some nice features like it's smooth scroll down. That's using just CSS smooth scroll. A lot of fun stuff happening. It's important to make sure that as we start harping on static sites more and more often, that we are making sure that our clients are represented in their needs. And clients do have a lot of needs, and they're all able to be met by static sites as long as you're willing to integrate with maybe a third party. But you can keep it all in HTML as opposed to using like Disqus for a JavaScript based comment engine. You could very easily roll your own comment engine using just forms and some serverless functions either on Netlify or AWS or something like that. So that's really all I had today. I do want to talk about a couple things before I go, but if you have any other questions, again, definitely post them up in the chat, which is probably over there. But I am revamping my practical CSS grid course. Let's go into full face mode. So if you're interested in CSS grid, right now I am working on 2 new exercises, as well as making each of the what's going to be 7 exercises fully backward compatible with older browsers. So if you're interested in how to support CSS grid, I've got a whole new set of content coming for that. And right now, if you get into that course, if you buy into the course right now, I'm offering 25% off the current price. You can get the link down in the description, but the coupon code is going to be new grid, all one word, but you just click that link in the description and you'll get the 25% off. But the big thing about that is when I launch the new content in about 2 weeks, the price is going to $50. So it's right now with that discount, it's $22.50. In about 2 weeks, it's going to be about $50 with all the new content. So be sure to get in there now and click that link below to get that discount. That discount goes away in 2 weeks as well. It's a whole lot of new content. It's going to be, instead of about the 2 hours it is now, it's going to be about 3.5 hours. 7 exercises that are all practical implementations of CSS grid. And there's, like I said, there's 2 more coming. There are 5 in there right now. 2 more on the way. I'm editing the videos today and tomorrow and publishing them next week. And then 7 exercises to talk about how to support those exercises in grid in CSS. So be sure to check that out, as well as check out myclientwants.com. The link to the site's in the description as well. And let me know if you have any resources that you're either looking for or have found that we want to have added to the site. And then beyond that, a like and a subscription is always lovely. Go down below, click those buttons for me, and let me know what other types of content you're looking to get. So what the next live stream should be. Leave a comment. So after this goes into video on demand, leave a comment for me and let me know what topics you want me to cover, because I'm starting to run low on topics. I'll cover anything from CSS, JavaScript, static sites, anything like that. I'm all ears for new content ideas. So let me know. And then, since there are no other questions over in chat right now, be good to each other, and we will see you next week. Thanks a lot, y'all.